This conference will now be recorded.
And it's okay also, folks, if you would like to remind me if I stop, if I don't press record. I mean, 9 times out of 10 I do, but just every once in a while I get kind of going. So that's okay to, speak, turn on your mic and say it, or send me a chat message and I'll start recording. All right, folks, so here we are continuing on in our chapter 38 PowerPoint, reviewing of tissues. Earlier today, we looked at the epithelial tissues, and now we're going to be looking at connective and also looking at muscle and nervous tissue. So connective tissues, I said to you there before that they are many different types of tissues. Fluid connective tissue, there's a fluid connective tissue, and that would be blood. So it's blood, we have bone, we have cartilage, we have adipose tissue, fat. These are all connective types of connective tissues. We also have ligaments and tendons, also types of connective tissues. And within connective tissue, you'll see that there's many forms of connective tissue have more extracellular matrix, ECM, than cellular material. So this is quite different from epithelial tissue, which are, you should write this down if you should be taking notes while we're doing this PowerPoint. Epithelial tissue are tightly packed cells, right? Tightly packed cells. Let's take a look for a moment here, just as a reminder. Look at these cells here, folks. Tightly packed cells. Tightly packed cells. Tightly packed cells, right? These columnar, simple columnar epithelial tissue. All right, so in the case of connective tissue, there can be, there's absolutely cells that are present, and some have more cells present in less extracellular matrix than others, right? But this ECM, this extracellular matrix, is very important in identifying connective tissue. So this extracellular matrix, this ECM, right, is very important for the connective tissue. And you'll see here that I mentioned to you before that there's fluid connective tissue. The blood cells, in blood, there's blood cells. There are all different types of cells that are present in order to even platelets. We have white blood cells, red blood cells, okay? In addition to other material that'll be transported present within the plasma, the liquid portion of the blood. Could be hormones, can be, these are chemical messengers, it can be ions can be moving through. So there are many things can be transported via the blood, which is a fluid connective tissue. Tendons and bone contain also extracellular matrix, right? An important protein, right, is called collagen. Collagen is a very strong, tough, durable protein, and it allows for, and it gives, it really adds to the strength of bone, collagen fibers, as well as also to tendon, ligaments, and cartilage. So in particular, now we're speaking about bone, right? So in the bone, in addition to these collagen fibers, we also have mineral deposits that produce a hard and somewhat elastic structure. So interesting, right? So the mineral deposits as well as the collagen fibers really allow for something that's very hard substance, right? Bone is difficult. Bone is really, it's dense and it's hard, yet it also has a little bit of a bend to it, okay? So really, your bone has a little bit of a give to it. Not a lot, but a little bit. So as a result of the collagenous fibers and such. You'll see here this term fibronectin aids in the attachment of cells to the extracellular matrix, helps to hold the cells in position. And you're going to see as we look at some of these examples of these tissues that you'll see that there are cells placed within this ECM, this extracellular matrix. Elastin is a fiber, and when you hear the term elastin, you think elastic, right? So it allows for there to be a stretch and a return to the original shape. That's the elastin fibers allow for that, okay? So very important, present within the integument, the skin, and also the lungs and respiratory system. And this is interesting, found only in insects, right? So elastin found in humans. Resolin, right, found only in insects and some crustaceans, right? Most elastic material known is protein. So elastin is a protein, resilin is a protein, but only found in insects and these crustaceans. Very elastic material. Can stretch and return back to its original shape. So types of connective tissue. So we have loose, we have fibrous, or we could say dense, cartilage, bone, adipose tissue, and blood. Okay, 6 major types. So this loose connective tissue, also known, we can see, and I'll show you an image of, sorry, here. Areolar. Yeah, areolar connective tissue. This is like the packing tissue of the human body, and it helps to keep all the organs in proper place and placement, so that we're really, I know you could kind of think that, oh, the organs of the body kind of like slishing and sloshing in throughout. It's not really doing that. They're really tightly packed and connected. And so this is here you're seeing examples of this areolar connective tissue, which is quite an interesting tissue. And in the lab, it'll kind of look like this. And so what you're seeing here, folks, is that you're seeing that we have these elastic fibers, right? In dark, they almost look like a pen drew a line. Those are elastic fibers. And then we have these thicker pink fibers, or light pink, purple. Those would be the collagen fibers, right? So this areolar connective tissue is a loose type connective tissue that it has these strong fibers present that are able to connect and hold on to the tissues and keep the organs in place, calling a packing tissue. And we also have these cells present, okay? And these cells present can be for the immune system, as well as these fibroblasts, which these fibroblasts will help to produce other fibers. So we have there the elastic fibers and the collagen fibers. They're fiber producing cells. Okay? So here you're seeing this fibroblast, and that's what I just showed you as far as those cells that are present within, and that's the matrix, you see. So like the areolar connective tissue, yeah, it has cells present, but it has a lot of matrix, that ECM present surrounding the cells, that the cells are present within. Okay, this is interesting. As far as loose connective tissue, form mesenteries. So these mesenteries are present in the abdominal cavity, and they really act as a protective, right, preventing chafing or abrasion, hold the abdominal organs in place, provide lubrication. So they're really like an apron of tissue surrounding and covering the abdominal. Let me show you. I would like to show you that also. Okay, so let's take a look here, and you can see this is going to give you, really, you see here that here we have the apron of mesentery that's covering the abdominal contents here. So we have here small intestine, large intestines, right? Here's, you can see the gallbladder and the liver and the stomach right there. And so it's really like from the inferior border of the stomach and such, and the area here that you can see that it's actually coming over, and this mesentery contains adipose tissue in addition to this loose areolar connective tissue. Right? Let's go to the next slide here. Increase. Okay, so here we have an example also of loose connective tissue. Here's an example of loose connective tissue. I showed you that on the internet there and such. Dense connective tissue. So when you think dense connective tissue, think tendons and ligaments. Okay, Also quite interesting, think the cornea of the eye. So the cornea of the eye is clear, okay, but it's very tough tissue because really the eyeball is really the outer layer. There's three layers to the eye, and the outer layer is the sclera, an extension of the sclera that covers the area where we actually refract light. Light enters into the eye would be the cornea. Okay? So very tough, durable type of tissue. The tendons and ligaments, the ligaments are anchoring bone to bone and connecting bone to bone, and the tendons are anchoring the muscles, the skeletal muscle, to the bone. So dense connective tissue. Very strong, you'll see here as far as the collagen and elastin fibers are lined up in highly ordered parallel bundles. And so this is cool. And what I tell students when they're trying to understand and memorize what this kind of a tissue looks like here is that when you're seeing this type of a tissue, it's instead of the skeletal muscle, which looks like they're kind of like layered on top of each other, and this is also layered, but it's like wavy, and that waviness is what you're seeing here as far as these collagen fibers are present. You're seeing then there are also these fibroblasts, these cells that will produce fibers. Okay. Tendons and ligaments, very important, very strong, durable types of dense connective tissue. Cartilage. So cartilage is very important. Cartilage is avascular. I said to you that earlier that epithelial tissue is avascular. Well, cartilage is also avascular, meaning there's no direct blood supply to that tissue. Okay, and the types of cells that comprise cartilage are chondrocytes. So chondro, right, that root word there represents cartilage. So chondrocyte, site, cell. So these cartilage cells. Okay. Elastin also present within cartilage because elastin does allow for some. So elasticity allows cartilage to resist compression and stay resilient. So there is a type of cartilage called fibrocartilage that's present between the intervertebral discs of the spine. Let's show you that. So these intervertebral discs, these are comprised of fibrocartilage. Also, let's see, fibrocartilage in the body because you also have it in other areas of the body. But think about it as far as the discs of the spine are concerned, because there's not a whole lot of movement that takes place between the disc material itself. It can have some movement, but not a whole lot, really. What's going on is that you'll have these facet joints here that will allow for more movement, and again, a little bit of movement here in the area where the joint is comprised of the vertebral body here, above and below the body. We'll also see that it's fibrocartilage is present. So let's go here. Yeah, this is better. So hard to, so right here, so you'll see that we have these coxal bones, your hip bones. Well, right here, that pubic area there, we call it the pubic symphysis, is where you have this joint where there is also fibrocartilage present. Okay, fibrocartilage is also, it's very tough and durable, and you'll see this also in the actual TMJ, your temporomandibular joint. That's also fibrocartilage, as well as the knee. So the knee, the meniscus, I'm sure you've heard of the meniscus of the knee. That's also fibrocartilage. Just to review with you too, as far as the cartilage, what's called elastic cartilage. This elastic cartilage is present in the external ear. Okay, it's also present in the epiglottis. You'll see that right at the very top right here. This epiglottis. This is the. Let me show you a better picture of that. In order to prevent, there we go. In order to prevent material say from the oral cavity, right, that you're drinking or eating, and allow it to enter into the esophagus to go to your stomach, your digestive system, the epiglottis right here, right, will cover, be like a lid. It's going to cover trachea, and it's going to prevent any liquid and food material from entering into the respiratory system. Okay, so very important. So that the epiglottis there, also considered elastic cartilage. The eustachian tube, which would be the tube. Let's show you that here. Folks, when you are going up a mountain or flying and you're going up to a higher elevation, you know that popping and that clicking noise that's taking place. Well, that's your eustachian tube right here that's opening. So here's your external ear. This is elastic cartilage. Your eustachian tube, elastic cartilage. And here's the middle ear. So many of you have unfortunately experienced a middle ear infection. And so this is the middle ear where you have those little tiny bones, these ossicles. Here's your eardrum, your tympanic membrane. And so this area right here, pressure can build up. And so when pressure builds up, to equalize the pressure, the eustachian tube opens, and that popping noise that you hear when you're driving up to a higher elevation or you're flying at a higher elevation, that's what's equalizing the pressure, that eustachian tube, elastic cartilage. So yeah, and then everything else, folks, everything else would be what's called hyaline cartilage. So cartilage, there's 3 different types, and they're present throughout the body. Fascinating, really amazing what it can do. And I want to point out to you where it says here about cartilage, as far as cartilage also serves as a precursor to bone during embryonic development. So really many portions of the skeleton of the body begin as hyaline cartilage, this special type of cartilage that's present throughout. So your nose, hyaline cartilage. All the other places of your body that I didn't mention earlier would be hyaline cartilage. Okay, cartilage is a very important type of structure, and again, too, it can become then bone, you know, as an embryo, the child develops. Okay, so here we have. So here, what we're looking at here is cartilage, and we're looking at cartilage that we're not seeing like the elastic fibers, or we're not seeing the fibrocartilage, which has very dense collagen fibers. We're seeing this is more of a hyaline cartilage. Okay, it's kind of clear looking, and these are spaces that contain the cells, the chondrocytes. Okay. Support, flexibility, low friction surface for joint movement. In other words, they allow for joints to move that have, so all bone that actually, at the ends of bones, there's cartilage present. We call that articulating cartilage, articular cartilage, that allows for these bones to move very smoothly without rubbing just bone on bone. The cartilage prevents that. The cartilage is the cushion for that. And so here you're seeing also a higher magnification. Here's the chondrocytes, and here's the extracellular. So this is all extracellular matrix where you're not seeing the cells. Cartilage. Bone. So bone, so whereas cartilage has some give to it, right? And bone also does, but cartilage is still durable but softer, right? In comparison to bone, which is very hard, and that and with cells present, osteocytes, which are mature bone cells, osteoblasts and osteoclasts. These are also types of bone cells that will allow for the building and the synthesis of bone, or the actual breaking down of bone, okay? And so that we can remove the old bone and produce new bone, right? So maybe you didn't really realize that or have an understanding that bone, very hard, right? Tough, durable tissue, but it's living tissue, so that it is broken down slowly over a period of time and replaced with new bone, okay? So bone is living tissue, not just hard like your table, right? Hard like a piece of rock. No, it will replace old bone with new bone over time. Okay. Let's see here. So look at this here. As far as mature bone consists primarily of osteocytes, these mature bone cells, embedded in an extracellular matrix containing those collagen fibers. And I mentioned that to you earlier, that those collagen fibers are very strong and give it really the bone a lot of a little bit of flexibility and strength. Okay? And then also this hydroxyapatite crystals are present that also are the mineral aspect of bone that give it its toughness. Okay? The structural unit of bone is called the osteon. And that's an important term to know, the osteon, because this osteon is present and it allows for, and there are a lot of blood flowing through the bone. So even though bone is hard and it is living tissue, it's very vascular. So bone is highly vascular. So what did I say about cartilage? Avascular. Bone is very vascular. So if you fracture a bone, it will bleed indeed. But that's all part of the process too, that also that it'll aid in the healing process of fractured bone. Let's see, yeah, so here we can see, so this would be, it's kind of cool when you're looking at these kind of slides in the lab, it looks almost like a tree trunk that you've kind of cut, and you can see the rings of the tree. Well, similar to, you'll see right here that we have these layers of bone, these concentric layers of bone, and there's this central canal, this opening, this is an opening, and the lumen, that canal, contains blood vessels as well as lymph and nerve. Okay, so really important. So because you need something in order for the blood vessels and the other vessels to pass through this hard structure of bone. And so you have this system of openings. So we have this central canal. We also perforating canals that go sideways. I'm going to show you an image regarding this also. Get an idea. It's a little hard to just get it from just one image there. Images. I think this is going to work. Okay, so what you'll see here is that you see how these like little concentric, like right over here that you can see, these are these osteons, but these osteons really are their tubes. They're tubes of bone. They're tubes of layers of bone. And you'll see here that central canal, you see the red and the blue, those represent artery and vein, right? So we have vessels passing through. And then you'll also see that there are these perforating canals. The Haversian system is an older term that they would use to describe this. Now we would say these central canal and these perforating canals. It's pretty well. Have I frozen, or are we good? Hopefully we're good. Okay. No, not for me. Yeah. So if my image, oops, if my image does freeze, right? When you're watching, it could be that your Wi-Fi has an issue. You might want to try, again, I've mentioned this before, but getting one of these Ethernet cables and connecting directly to your router, because that'll be very helpful. Okay. That'll prevent a lot of that freezing that will take place. Okay. So you'll see here that blood vessels and such can pass through these hard bone, okay, and allow for then just very important to allow for the remodeling of the bone, we call it, and just fascinating stuff. Here's another image. You're just seeing the red represents these holes in the bone that allow for vessels to pass through and such. Okay. So adipose tissue is fat, right? Fat. So fat cells are adipocytes. Adipose tissue, large, densely clustered adipocytes. It almost looks like soap bubbles when you're looking at it under the microscope as far as for histology is concerned. Excess carbohydrates are converted into fats and stored in adipocytes, right? It's richly supplied with blood vessels, and know that it can be cushions the body. So you'll see here cushions. It can your kidneys actually have a cushion, a adipose fat cushion for each of them. And if a patient loses a dramatic amount of weight, that fat cushion can disappear, can really shrink, and it can allow for then the kidneys to drop, right? And as a result, it can cause impingement of the ureters that allow for the urine to pass from the kidneys to the urinary bladder, and that can be a problem. Also, you have for your eyeballs themselves, there are also fat cushion present, adipose tissue there. And if a patient loses a dramatic amount of weight, right, as a result of starvation, right, then this can also affect as far as the eyeballs can kind of be more sunken in as a result of a loss of that adipose tissue. Adipose is important. And you'll see here, okay, Angie, I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. I want to see what your question was here. I couldn't read it fast enough. If someone does not eat regularly, does this cause weight gain or an overproduction of adipocytes? If someone does not eat, am I correct in that, Angie? Does not eat regularly, right? Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so not necessarily. Really, not eat regularly. You know, it's more like what you're eating that can really affect, and what kind of physical activity. And multiple factors are involved in this, other than just not eating regularly. So yeah, so like in other words, you're saying, well, if I don't eat my breakfast at the same time every day, or my lunch, or my breakfast, or my dinner at the same time, there are situations, and there are discussions regarding eating within an 8 to 12 hour range of time, and not eating any close, or some people will even eat 6 to 8 hours of the day, and that's it. The rest of the day they'll rest their digestive tract. Those are different ways of doing things, but eating regularly or not regularly, I don't know that that's as much of an issue for weight gain as much as the content, what you're eating and how much you're eating of it, right? Okay. Hope that answers your question. Let me go here. I'm gonna make this bigger. Okay, folks, so you'll see here, and it's not the best image, but you can see that these kind of look like soap bubbles, really. And when you enhance the image more, you'll see that really these cells are kind of interesting in that they have the fat deposition right here within the cytoplasm of the cell, and then you have the nucleus right here, right? So there's like, really what these little dots are the nuclei, and these are the cells with a nucleus attached. Now, I said to you earlier there today that blood is a fluid connective tissue, right? And so the plasma is the liquid portion. The plasma is the liquid portion of the blood where all of these cells will travel through. So we're looking at red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Or we can look at erythrocytes, leukocytes, and thrombocytes. These are all the different types of cells present. In addition to, like I said, there are ions present. There are different hormones and different types of secretions that can also travel. Gases travel within, right? So there's more to it that travels through other than just these formed elements, we call them. So erythrocytes, leukocytes, and platelets. And you should know that, right? So erythrocytes, these red blood cells, they're transporting oxygen and CO2. The leukocytes are involved in your immune response, and the platelets are involved in actually participating in blood clotting. And really, the blood is really the life force of the body, and we filter blood in order to produce urine and have a liquid waste exit our body. We also, as a result of blood, we will be able to use it with other cells called impendable cells that will be able to produce cerebrospinal fluid. So blood really is the major fluid that will contribute, and also blood, the filtrate of blood, of the plasma portion of blood will exit the cardiovascular system, enter into the extracellular fluid, and get then brought up by the lymphatic system. That's part of your immune system that will also take up that liquid portion of the blood and enter into the lymphatic system and circulate and aid in your ability to attack microorganisms that are not self, right? Self cells, there are body cells, we're good. But non-self cells that enter into our body, our immune system should mount a response to in order to protect us. Okay? And so here what we have an example of would be multiple red blood cells, because they are the highest concentration. And then we have a very small concentration, small percentage, that would be white blood cells. And then here's a platelet. Muscle type tissue. So we have three different types of muscle tissue. We have skeletal, cardiac, and smooth muscle. Skeletal muscle is voluntary control. Cardiac muscle and smooth, there's not involuntary control. Right? The body is just doing what it does in order to maintain homeostasis and keep everything flowing and moving. Comprised of, and oh, by the way, too, those actin and myosin, those are very important proteins that are involved in also the ability for you when you contract muscle. So not only, so say I just make my biceps contract it, but don't move my arm, right? So I just hold it still, but contract that muscle, right? So then the actin and myosin fibers are connecting, they're touching. And then they'll move when I actually to move my arm, right, voluntarily, and I'm contracting the musculature, and it's sliding. We call this sliding filament theory. They have these proteins, myosin, moving actin and sliding, so that this way the muscle belly gets shorter. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail regarding this. It's not an anatomy class, but just giving you some of the basics regarding muscle and contraction. So you see here that a muscle fiber is a muscle cell, so also known as AKA, also known as. And you'll see here that skeletal muscle, like I said, contracts voluntarily in response to signals from the nervous system. Right? Now, this is an interesting point that you should know, that contractions release heat that helps mammals, birds, and some other vertebrates maintain their body temperature. So by the physical work, the physical action of your muscles contracting, that helps to increase body temperature and contribute to your core body temperature and maintenance of that. So here we have, you see how this is different? I said to you that skeletal muscle, kind of like these rods, whereas remember ligaments and tendons are kind of wavy, right? Wavy lines. You'll see here that's not the case for skeletal muscle fibers, the muscle cells. Cardiac muscle, one of the ways that we are able to determine that it's cardiac muscle under histology, looking under slides and such with microscopes, cardiac muscles are short and branched, right? So they're different than the skeletal muscle. They're branching, and each cell connected to neighboring cells at the intercalated discs. And I would like to show you that. That's very, so you see here that there are very similar to, see this striation, see these striations, okay? That's present in skeletal muscle. See how there's branching that takes place, branching, right? This is also present in, this is cardiac muscle. It's also striated, but then you see these dark lines. See those dark lines right there? Those are those intercalated discs, okay? And they just contribute to all the muscle fibers in this for the cardiac muscle to contract as a unit, as one. So the upper chambers of the heart, the atria, they contract, and then the ventricles, those lower chambers of the heart, they contract in unison. Okay? Smooth muscle found in walls of the tubes. All the organs of your body contain smooth muscle, right? To allow for a contraction of the smooth muscle, not consciously controlled by the nervous system, that are able to aid in movement of material. Okay, so you'll see here, smooth muscle cells are small and spindle-shaped, and that's the truth. They really are. Look at, you see these spindle-shaped fibers? That's what you're looking at here. These are very unique muscle fibers. They're spindle-shaped, and there's no striations like there were on cardiac and skeletal muscle. So smooth muscle found in walls of tube, cavities, blood vessels, stomach, intestine, bladder, the organs of the body, smooth muscle. And finally, nervous tissue. So it contains nerve cells. Nerve cells are also known as AKA neurons. Okay? Glial cells, these are the support cells of the neurons. And there are more glial cells, support cells, than there are nerve cells. Okay? These glial cells, these support cells, They'll allow for support, provide nutrients, they'll electrical insulation, scavenge cellular debris and foreign matter material. So there are specific types of glial cells. I'm not going to be going into that in detail with you all because, like I said, it's not anatomy class, but there's quite a bit of diversity in the types of glial cells, these support cells, and they have specific jobs in what they do. But know this, as far as the nerve cells are concerned, they allow for control and communication of the body and the body parts. Your nervous system is fascinating. I would tell you that as far as all the studies that I've done, the nervous system is just my favorite system as far as studying and learning, and it's just fascinating what your brain can do, truly. A neuron consists of a cell body, dendrite, and an axon. So what goes on is that we would say a multipolar neuron. This is the example that you're seeing here. There are multiple processes, right? So there's multiple dendrites. These are bringing information to this cell body right here. They're carrying information to the cell body, and then the axon is taking information away to another area to either interact with nerves, interact with muscle, interact with glands. Okay, so the signals are coming in here, going to the cell body, and then traveling here, going to another neuron, right? To these two more dendrites, or going to skeletal muscle, or going to glands. Let's see. Yes, we have a little bit more to go, so I'm going to stop here for today. That's where I want to accomplish. Good, excellent. All right.